Hello everyone, I am Dr. Ajay Kumar MV. I am the Deputy Director for Center for Operational Research in International Union Against Tuberculosis and Lung Disease. In this session, I am going to show how to set up for duplicate data entry and validation. By now we are become familiar with this particular overview diagram. We began with our original data source. As an example, we are considering tuberculosis laboratory register as our source. We learned how to prepare a data documentation sheet or a code book, which is nothing but a blueprint or a roadmap for developing the EpiData database. We also learned the three files: quest file, rec file, and check file. How to make these files, how to edit them, how to open, close them, and how to manipulate them. We also learned what are the interrelationships between the three files. And today we are going to learn how to set it up for double data entry and validation. That's going to be the focus of this session. So in terms of objectives, by the end of this session, you should know the three ways of reducing data entry errors. You should be able to copy the structure of a rec file and create a duplicate file for double data entry. You should perform double data entry in groups. You should be able to validate the duplicate data files and also learn how to delete records from a rec file. Let's move on. What are the three ways of reducing data entry errors? This whole course has been about quality assurance, and the focus is on reducing data entry errors. And we have learned several things along the way. One of the things which is very, very effective in reducing data entry errors is the use of a check file. I think it has become very clear by now that using checks, you can prevent many data entry errors. The next step to reducing data entry error is to work together for data entry. Now, for example, even if we have made the check options, for example, in age variable, we said the legal range is between 0 to 125. But if somebody enters 36 for 63, what we call as transposition error, then it will take it because it is within the legal range as we have defined in the age. Now, such errors cannot be detected by a check file. But there are some other ways which we can do to handle such errors. One is to work together. If you are entering data alone, that means you are constantly shifting your attention between the paper record and the computer screen. And in that process, you are almost guaranteed to have many data entry errors. Instead, if two people work together, with one reading the value from the original source, the other repeating it aloud to ensure that that was what was said and entering the value in the computer. If you adopt this mechanism, then we can prevent a lot of data entry errors. But even with that approach, there could be some data entry errors. The best way, and what is considered as the gold standard in preventing data entry errors, is duplicate data entry and validation. Now, what is this duplicate data entry and validation? This means two independent data entry operators enter the data twice in two different files, and then you compare the two files, validate the two files, and list all the discordances or discrepancies between the two files, and then create a final file which is a copy of one of these two files and correct all these discordances or all these errors by referring to the original data source. That is what we mean by double data entry and validation. And the rationale behind this is, if two independent people have done the data entry, the probability or the likelihood of committing the same mistake in the same field of the same record is minuscule, is very, very rare. Can it happen? Is it possible? Well, yes, it is still possible to make the same error in the same field, but it's highly improbable that that happens. So if you are going to do a double entry and validation, you can be reassured that the amount of data entry errors will be very, very minimal. Can it totally eliminate all the data entry errors? As you see in the process, it is still possible that there may be some data entry error, but it will be very, very improbable or less likely to happen. So this is considered as the gold standard, and in this session we are going to learn how to set this up using EpiData. So a couple of points to note before we can go further in duplicate data entry and validation. First of all, make sure your rec file has a unique identifier. That's very important because that is going to be the pivot with which we are going to compare the two files. And you know that we use key unique as the command to make some variable a unique identifier. And what we are going to do is, with our usual policy, download the solutions of exercise 3 and overwrite your existing files, whatever you have been working, and we'll use that solution, that standard file, to do all our data entry and validation. Let's begin. Let's go to EpiData. Let me show you how to set it up. Now I have already downloaded the solution of exercise 3, and these are those files, AX03 files. The quest file, rec file, check file, and of course yesterday I told you what is a index file. Now let's first create two empty databases. How do you create two empty databases? Well, one way is you can simply copy this and paste and rename. I showed you this earlier, and that will create an empty database because currently there are no records entered in this particular file. These are empty, so you can now copy, paste and rename. But there is a more elegant way of doing this, and there is an option in EpiData. If you go to Tools and say Copy Structure, go to your course folder, choose the rec file, open. The moment you see that, so this is already given some data file label, this is exercise A, and I'm going to give a new name here for the file I'm creating. I'm going to call it EX04A. So I'm going to say this is going to be AX04A file. I'm going to call it a A file. So please make sure that you have checked this particular thing, which is about copying the check file, because if you don't do it, then only the rec file will get copied and all the corresponding checks will not be available for data entry. So this is very important to tick this particular box here, copy check file, and then say OK. It says data file has been copied to 4a.rec. Let's quickly go and see if that has happened. So can you see here, a 4a rec as well as a 4a check has come here. Fine. So let's create one more. So I'm going to go copy structure. I can choose 4a rec. Okay, it's the same structure as 3 rec. So I'm going to open it and simply say this is going to be my B file, b.rec. Again, don't forget to tick here, copy check file, then say OK. So again, we have got two files. So let's go quickly and check that. Yes, I have got a 4B rec as well. So 4A rec and 4B. So I have now got two empty databases with exactly the same structure. Now I'm going to do data entry in these two files. So let's quickly go here and do some data entry so that we can demonstrate this. So I'm opening 4A rec. Okay, so this is the lab. We take that lab serial number. I'm going to give some number, registration date, female, 12 years, diagnosis, negative. Okay, same, Aguna 3002, registration date, female, age, diagnosis, negative. Aguna 1003, same date, email, say follow up, negative, negative, negative. Aguna, going to make email, diagnosis, 1 plus, 1 plus, and scanty. Okay, then I'm going to do one more, just 5 records. Okay, so let me stop here. So I've entered 5 records. How can I say that? Can you see here in the bottom there is a navigation panel? Can you all see this? Now here it tells me that now I'm in a new record. It's an empty new record and there are already 5 records here. So that is what it is telling me. And I can go back. This is the button for the previous record. If I want to go to the first record, click the first button here. It says first record. So I'm in first record and there are totally 5 records. If I want to go to the next record, I'm going to click this forward looking arrow and the next record. And if I want to go to the last record, click this arrow. Is this clear? How to navigate through? And I'm going to show you another option later on, but this is one way of navigating through your records. And there are some asterisk and a cross here. So for example, this asterisk, blue asterisk, is for creating a new record. So if you want to go to a new record, you can click there, and wherever you are in the database, you will come to a new record. And similarly, if you want to delete a record, then you can click on this cross. So I'll come to deletion of a record little later, but just to note that this is the way you navigate. Okay, we have finished now data entry in A file. Let me close this. Okay, and let me open the B file and do the same data entry. Okay, I have done some fake data entry here. So I've got two files. So let me go and see. These are the two files. I have a brec and I have a arec. Now the next step is, once you have finished your double data entry, then what you do is go to document, this is the number 5, and then say validate duplicate files. Click there. You have to select your two files, name of the first data file. Click on the browse here, go and choose 4a. Similarly, click on the browse here and go and choose 4b.rec. Then say OK. And then you get a dialog box like this. And if you look at this, so this is 4a rec and there are 5 records. 4b rec, again 5 records. So it already tells you that both these databases contain the same number of records. Okay. Sometimes you may find that the number of records itself is different in the two databases. That clearly tells you that there is some error. In this case, the number of records is same. So let's look further. Now you have to choose a key field with which it is going to compare the two databases. Okay, and this is the reason why I said there should never be a database without a unique identifier. Now here there is a key here, small key next to the variable ID code, indicating to us that this is indeed our key identifier. So I'm going to click there because that is the variable we are going to use to compare the two data files. And there are some standard options here. We will leave it as they are for the time being and then say OK. So we've got a validate duplicate data files report. So a report is generated. Let's go through this report. It tells us report was generated, the date and time when it was generated. The data file 1, it gives you the details, the file name, the file label, the date when it was created and the total records. Similarly, it gives details of data file 2. So it is all properly documented and is transparently available for anybody who wants to verify what we have done. Okay, research is all about documentation, and EpiData allows us to document the process wonderfully well. So let's go further. So it is telling what are the options we used, what fields were there in both data files. Fields excluded from data file 1 and 2, we did not exclude any fields. Okay. Fields used as index keys, so we used ID code, that is clear here. Okay. Results of validation. First, records missing in data file 1. There is one record missing in file 1 and one record missing in file 2. Now this is the first thing to note and correct. Okay, because if the file itself is missing, then we can't validate that particular file. Okay, only those with common records in both databases can be compared. Okay, so the first thing to fix, in fact, is this. Let's see which are those files. And further, it says number of common records found 4. So there were 4 out of 5 common records. And number of fields checked per record 14. Total fields checked, and it is telling me 2 out of 4 records had errors. Okay, out of the 4, 2 records had errors, 50%. And out of the 56 fields, total number of fields, 10 fields had errors. Okay, and let's see how it lists all errors. So first, it is telling me that this particular record with the ID code MLJ 2001-3003 is not found in data file 2. Okay, so this probably might have happened because I entered an incorrect serial number, probably, or one of these components, either the lab code or the year or the serial number. If I make mistake in one of this, then the ID code will be incorrect. So let's look at what might have happened. So this is a record, and you see there are differences in this. X is 1, here it is 2, age 15, 22, etc, etc, record 5, and then here we have another code. So you can clearly see it's again 3003, but the year is entered as 2002. So probably this is the first mistake. So and that is the first thing to be corrected. Is that clear? So look at if there are records missing in one file or the other, and then correct them. And once you correct, you can validate even that particular file. So let's look at this 3003. One it is 2001, another one it is 2002. So we know that this data is coming from the year 2001. So this is the one which is not correct. So it has to be 2001. So this file is not found, this particular record is not found in data file 1. That means there is an error in data file 2. So I'm not going to save this. Let me close it, go to my B file, okay, and actually find this particular record. Now since there are only 5 records, I can navigate using the buttons here in the navigation panel and find that record. But if there are, let's say, 100,000 records, we can't manually do that. So one of the ways to find out is file, we go to and then say find record. The shortcut key is Ctrl F. Okay. Here I can choose a particular serial number and search. You can choose to search by any variable. I'm going to say Cerno because I know this 3003. So that is the record I'm looking for. So I'm going to say OK. And right here I'm back 3003, and here I see that there is an error. I'm going to correct that. Okay. And save it. So I have corrected that particular discrepancy. Now I'm going to run a validate duplicate files again. The same 2 files, 4A rec, 4B rec, and I say OK. Already 5 files, that is OK. ID code, going to say fine, OK. And now if you see, okay, records missing in data file. So that has been corrected. So we did find 5 common records. Now this is the first thing to fix. And now it has done a complete validation. So 3 out of 5 records had errors and 12 out of 70 fields had errors. Okay. So, and it has listed all the errors. Now this is a file I want to save and give it a proper name. Let's say AEX04. I'm going to say AB.not. So this is going to be a new kind of file. It's a note file indicated by the extension .not or .note. So I'm going to save this. So this is a permanent copy that you must always have. So if somebody wants to check up where is the proof that you have indeed done double entry and validation, now this is the proof. Is that clear? Okay. So I'm going to close this. In fact, what we would do in reality is take a printout of this particular report, and then you have to make corrections. Now, where do you make corrections? Do you do it in A file or B file? A file or B file? The best practice is not to do any corrections in A file or B file. Why? Because if you do that, then you are breaking the chain of documentation. So what happens is, if tomorrow somebody wants to audit and verify if whatever you have done and did the validation is correct or not, they will not be able to reproduce that validation report. So our standard recommendation is do not fiddle around with either the A file or the B file. Keep it as it is. Don't break the chain of evidence. What you have to do is make a copy of one of the files, rename it as the final file, and do all the corrections in the final file. So let me show you how to do that. So as a standard practice, I always copy A file, although there is no reason why you shouldn't do B file. So I'm going to copy the 3 files and use the wonderful multi-rename option to make this F file. That means this is going to be my final file. Okay, and I will open the final file. Okay, I have opened the final file, and let's say I have to go, there is a particular record which has error. I'm going to go there. Let's say this is where it was where there was an error, and then I can, okay, it's not one, something, whatever, you refer to the original data source and make all the corrections accordingly. Do not forget to save your changes. Is this clear? So this is how you set it up for dual data entry. Do the data entry twice. You have 2 databases. Validate these duplicate files. Create a validation report which will list all the discrepancies between the 2 files. Create a final file. Make a copy of one of the A or the B file. Rename it as the final file and make all the corrections in the final file. And that is going to be your final file, a clean file for analysis. Is this okay? Is this clear? Okay. Now let me show you a couple of other options. So I've already discussed, how to go to, use the navigation panel to navigate through the records. The other way is, if you know the record number, then you can say go to record. Can't see. Okay, I'm using the option here, find record, and you can use any of the variables to search. So let's say I want to search using ID code because that is going to be my key identifier. Let's say I want to search for ML_J 2001 record 3005. So this is the record I want to search for. Then I can say OK, and it will take me to that particular record. This is a very useful option to go to that particular record which has errors, compare with your original data source, and make all corrections. Now I want to show you one final option before I exit from here, and that is how to delete a record. Sometimes you may find that there is an incorrect record which has to be completely deleted. Now how do you do that? As I told you, can you all see this red cross in the bottom? The moment you bring the cursor there, it tells you it is for deleting the record. So go there. Let's say I want to delete this particular record, 3005. Okay, so I'm going to go there and click on delete record. The moment I do that, a word DEL, delete appears by the side of it. This means that this record is marked for deletion. Okay, but for successful marking, you have to save the record. That means just go towards the end and save. So if you go back to the 5th record, you will see that this word del appears. So this is marked for deletion. This is not yet permanently deleted from the database. It is just marked for deletion. Now this is one of the safety features in EpiData. EpiData values the importance of clean data. So it is not going to allow you to delete data inadvertently. So it has made deletion a two-step process. In the first step, you have to mark the record for deletion. At this stage, in case you decide I don't want to delete, you can go back and unmark. So this is like a toggle key. You can click again and that deletion disappears. But if I want to mark it for deletion, let's say here in this case we want to mark it for deletion, I'm going to say that, and please note a successful marking for deletion requires that you save the record. Unless you do that, it won't be successfully marked. So I'm going to save it and verify by going back that this is indeed marked for deletion. Now let's say I want to permanently take it out from my database. How do I achieve that? Go to Tools and then say Pack Data File. Can you all see this? Pack Data File. I'm going to click that and choose my FREC and say Open. It's giving me a warning. It says this will permanently remove records marked as deleted. Are you sure? So EpiData is asking, and by default cancel is highlighted. So it requires your active intervention to actually say OK. Again, it is telling you it contains 5 records, 1 record will be permanently deleted. Still giving you a second chance if you want to rethink about deletion. So EpiData is very careful. And if you think, no, in this case we indeed want to have it deleted. So I'm going to say OK. And look what has happened. It says it has been packed and now contains 4 records. The original data file is there now as old.rec. So it is still giving you one last chance. If you still want to go back, there is an option. But once you leave this, then you probably will not be able to go back. Is that clear? Okay. Now let me check FREC to see if there are indeed 4 records. So I can go enter data, FREC, let me open. Yes, you can see here there are only 4 records and 3004. That record with serial number 3005 has been deleted. You can check by going to that old.rec, fold.rec. Here you will see there are indeed 5 records with the 5th record marked for deletion. So there is still some option to go back. Is that clear? So this concludes the session on double data entry and validation. In this session, we have learned how to do copy structure so that we can create empty EpiData data files, and then how to do double data entry, how to do validation of the duplicate files, and how to generate a validation report, and then how we should make a final file and make all corrections in the final file. Thank you very much.